One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is a manipulation tactic titled DARVO. It's an acronym, and it means deny, attack, and RVO, reverse victim and offender. What this does is it's abusive, and it's in the format of being deceitful, harmful behavior to basically avoid being accountable and shift blame onto the victim. It's an acronym that we like using in psychology, especially when we're seeing a client, because it helps just having a short, like DARVO acronym to help them remember. Once you put a label on something, they can look for it in their abusive relationship, and it helps them move through it quicker. Because basically, once you label something, it's easier for the victim who it's been used on to be able to separate from it. That this was something a toxic person used on them doesn't mean that they were, there was something wrong with them. It means their partner was an abuser, and basically they're the one in need of psychological help. This term was coined by a psychologist named Jennifer Freyd, and I like it because I see that when I'm in a session with someone and it's been used in their relationship and it's being used in the session, when I coin a term to it, it seems like they can move past it easier, and they take less of the negative effects of what happened to them onto themselves. They don't basically get stuck in the abuse or loving the abuser. They're able to more clearly move away from it and see it. So I want to go through what this DARVO actually means. The first thing is it starts with a D, and that's deny. So the manipulator flatly denies any wrongdoing. They say that never happened, you're exaggerating, you're making things up. And then comes attack. They go to the offensive, criticizing or demeaning the person who confronted them. So anybody who confronts them is basically going to be someone the attacker or the abuser will try to go after. So they'll say things like, you're crazy, you're too sensitive, or you're always trying to start drama. And then the third thing is RVO, the reverse victim and offender. Finally, if they're not getting what they want, they flip the script, and then they're portraying themselves as the true victim and the accuser as the aggressor. So they're saying things like, you're the one attacking me. I can't believe you do this to me after everything I've done for you. Now I feel unsafe because of your accusations. So you can see why someone they're attacking with this would try to make up with them and be sensitive to them. I actually had a neighbor who tried this tactic on me once, and I will never forget it, because the whole thing where they began in the beginning with denial, and then they moved on to the accusing, that didn't work. So then they flipped the script where they were the victim. And that is really hard to step away with. So what's their purpose or the psychological effect? Well, it erodes confidence in their perception of events. So they're basically gaslighting you. They're trying to erode your ability to be confident in what you know to be true. It makes the accuser feel less guilty or shame for speaking up. And it redirects sympathy and social support toward the manipulator. And until you've had this happen or you've seen it happen, you cannot believe it. So what do we do in therapy for identifying it? Well, we validate a client's experience of confusion or self-doubt after confrontation. And we also are reframing the manipulator's behavior as a defensive strategy, not the truth. So we're really big on pointing out that this is untrue to the victim of an abuser's attack with DARVO. So, for example, you're accusing me for no reason. I'm the one who should be hurt. I can't even talk to you without being attacked. These are things that the abuser will say once they do the flip. The emotional outcome of all this is that we find the victim in a confused and self-doubting state. They feel guilty for speaking up. They're pressured to comfort the offender. So the abuser actually is looking for comfort from the person they abused, which is crazy. Right there, that should be a symptom that you are under the effect of an abuser. And it makes the person who they first started out abusing feel afraid to ever say anything in the relationship. So what this leads to is a total denial of any truth in the relationship. And their partner becomes silenced because, God forbid, they say something that starts the abuser attacking them. So how can we help? How do we help, therapists help clients in this situation? For example, if you came in and you told me you weren't sure what was going on in your marriage, but this is what your fights or your arguments ended up looking like, I would be able to very clearly label this for you and then go through what we need to do for you. The first thing is I would teach you the acronyms so that you had a label and you could validate yourself with that. So you would be relieved just to know that this is a pattern and not your fault. It's a dysfunctional pattern brought on to you by your partner who is an abuser and would need therapy. But at that point, once you knew it was a pattern, you could decide whether you wanted the relationship, I hope not, or you move on. I would encourage you to do that. A grounding reality. So this helps, like if you're a victim of this, you're going to feel confused. You're going to feel out of sorts. You're not going to have trust in yourself. So I would encourage you to journal. Stay in the concrete facts of what happened and what was said, so that when we look at what was actually said, we could point out where the distortions were. So you didn't get confused, because sometimes when an abuser flips the script, it's very easy to think that it was you who started it, or it was you who is the problem, when in fact it isn't at all. It's just that your abuser flipped the script and now they're the victim. And it's really hard, if you're a compassionate person, to move away from that. I think setting boundaries is so important. So I think things like, we would go back to your values. You value a good relationship. You value good communication. You value honesty. That would mean none of these were in line with your values. So right away, we would call this a dysfunctional relationship. And a psychologist would encourage you to either end this relationship or both of you go to therapy together so that we could talk openly about what's happening, naming the pattern, where it came from, and then continue working with the two of you if this relationship was something you both really still wanted. You thought it could be salvageable, which many times in an abusive relationship it is not, and it should be let go. So also, I think learning regulation. Sometimes the safest response, if you're being abused in this way, is disengagement and moving on. And if the client, if that was happening to you, I would be supportive of you and I would say, listen, I think it's time to exit this relationship and we should stay in therapy together till you get solid, till you feel like you can trust yourself again, and then you can make a better decision about what you want more of in the future. If this video is helpful for you, please subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much.